Okay, let's get kicked off here. So again, thank you all for joining this workshop today on how we here at Attio use Attio. So just as for some housekeeping and a quick agenda, my name is Zev. I'm the head of the sales and success teams here at Attio. We've got in the Q&A chat, we have my colleague Matt joining us. And today I will be walking you through, again, an overview of how we use our product here internally. We'll start with a quick overview of the company, just who we are. Obviously, that's really critical relative to how we use our CRM. I'm going to walk you through our go-to-market process and the whole tech stack that we use to manage it, and then dig into some use cases for how we use Attio every single day among our sales team, our post-sales and success teams, and how other teams outside of go-to-market uses Attio. Someone mentioned that the screen is blurred. Let's see how the next couple slides go, and I can try resharing if it doesn't seem to work. So jumping right in, I think most of you know what our product is, but as a company, we at Attio are a Series A B2B SaaS startup. We have about 100 employees today and are growing very quickly. And we have a really varied customer base in terms of who we sell our product to. We work with a lot of B2B SaaS companies. We work with investment firms like VCs and private equity firms, agencies, traditional B2B companies selling physical goods and services, two-sided marketplaces, communities. Anybody that is working with other companies, right, can be a good fit for Attio. And we really thrive in industries where there's a need to really customize your go-to-market, your CRM to your go-to-market processes. We are a product-led company, as you all probably know. You can sign up for Attio on our website for a free trial. You can convert and pay and become a customer without ever talking to a member of our sales team. But we do have a dedicated sales team that's very quickly growing. Today it is about 20 people across sales and success. So that's AEs, solutions engineers, customer success managers that are using our CRM to manage their day-to-day. And those are the users we'll talk about today. We have headquarters in London with offices in New York and San Francisco. So we're a relatively distributed company. And again, I think this gives some context for why we use Attio the way we do. And if you're a company of similar size, similar stage of similar sales motion, I think the things that we talk about today will hopefully be super relevant to you. So walking through our sales process at Attio, what the life cycle of a customer looks like, our sales motion operates entirely on an inbound motion today. Anybody that we engage with, whether sales is talking to them or they're self-serving to our product, comes into Attio through our website. We have three primary sources of leads that ultimately flow into our funnel. You can sign up for a workspace trial on your own. You can fill out a lead form on our website to reach out to our sales team, or you can chat with our support and sales team directly on our marketing website. All of these three channels flow to our sales team for review to potentially then reach out and create a deeper relationship and have a human-owned sales cycle. And I've got this arrow going over the top here because any customer, any prospect, anyone trialing Attio can self-service on their own to become a customer. You do not have to talk to a member of the Attio sales team to buy our product, which is not uncommon for PLG companies, but unique to how we set up all of our processes in our CRM. Then finally, among all of our, to support all of our paying Attio customers, we have a customer success motion that includes both a one-to-many kind of scaled approach for making sure our customers get the most out of a product, as well as a named CSM program where individual customers have access to direct named CSMs. So this is our go-to-market that we then are going to layer on top of the tech stack that we're going to talk about today. At a high level for our Attio setup, we have, I want to just talk quickly through the objects that we've set up for some context. So of course we have companies and people. Everybody at Attio syncs their email into Attio to create those companies and people records. We use deals to manage our sales pipeline. We'll talk a lot about that today. Our workspaces and user objects are synced into Attio so that we have a live, up-to-date data on all of the workspaces that exist, whether those be trials or paying customers, and exactly what those customers have set up on their own inside of our app. And then we also bring in customer interaction data from other ways we engage with our customers so that all of the context comes into our CRM. So we use Intercom to support our support chat. We bring those tickets into Attio, or conversations into Attio as a custom object today. We also have a growing practice of collaborating with third-party consultants. We call them experts, who help our customers get onboarded or build migrations or provide general go-to-market expertise in managing their Attio deployment. And we maintain our tracking of our relationships with those experts and the linkages between those experts and our customers in our CRM too. That's an integral part of our sales process, an integral part of our onboarding process. We won't dig into that too deeply, but I wanted to highlight some of the custom objects we have set up in Attio, our CRM. The next thing I'm going to jump into is our broader tech, go-to-market tech stack in Attio, and how all of the data that populates each of these objects and our tooling and our other go-to-market motions funnels into Attio. And with that tech landscape in place, we can talk about how we use each of those components. So we are a software company, and we'll see that when we talk about Attio internally, we might be referencing our app or us using our app as a CRM. But our application that our product that's managed by our engineering team collects a whole bunch of information about the customers that sign up and use Attio. We track attribution via our website. So anytime a customer signs up, our own product tracks where that customer came from when they ultimately landed on our marketing site. All of our subscriptions and payments are managed in our own app code, with Stripe as a backend as our payment processor. So data about how much, what products a customer has purchased, what their current subscription is, all is ultimately sourced from our actual application. And then, of course, our application stores data about the users, the usage, the plan that they've purchased. And all of that data fundamentally lands as workspace and user objects inside of Attio, our CRM, using Segment. So we have our application instrumented with Segment for both identifying what are called users and groups in Segment terminology, as well as tracking individual tracking events for product usage. And those group and identify calls land in Attio as workspaces and users, giving us a perfect mirror of our application database effectively for all of our customers inside our CRM. And we'll talk more about how that gives us the ability to do churn alerts, or identify when renewals are coming up, or create PQLs for our sales team to for our sales team to reach out to customers where there are opportunities for upsell or conversion to paid. We bring data that I meant, those data objects that I mentioned on the last slide. We bring in from external sources. Again, our customer support team uses Intercom every day. Those tickets are synced into our CRM. We manage our external partner relationships with a tool called Partner Page that is synced into Attio, our CRM, and all of the website, the forms that exist on our website for reaching out to sales are of course pushed into our CRM as well for lead gen. Finally, on the customer engagement side, we use Customer IO for customer marketing and lifecycle marketing, and data is synced into that tool both directly from Segment as well as from Attio, which we'll talk about a little about today. So when we do scaled programs for product adoption or annual renewals, those emails are sent in mass through Customer IO, but we use our Attio as our CRM to sync information about those accounts to drive those email campaigns. Finally, on the kind of usage analytics front, Segment, again, as our event collection tool, sends all of our product usage events into our data warehouse, which is BigQuery. We do analytics work on product usage data and also CRM data in our warehouse using a BI tool called Omni. And for the purposes of this presentation, our warehouse is really important because it helps us aggregate and sync sophisticated product usage statistics about our workspaces and our users into our CRM. And we use, again, a tool called Polytomic, which is an ETL and reverse ETL tool to move data both out of our CRM into our warehouse for analysis, as well as bringing product usage data in aggregate, things like the number of logins for a workspace in the last week, particular lifecycle stage events, whether a customer, for example, has whether a workspace has set up any email syncing yet, exists as data inside of our data warehouse, and we use Polytomic to push that onto attributes on our workspaces and users objects. And I'll talk more about how we then use workflows to use that to generate. And we use workflows to generate leads and PQLs and contextual information for our customer success team as we manage our customer relationships. So we've got kind of the stack of how the nuts and bolts work behind the scenes, the infrastructure of how things are set up. Let's jump into use cases. The first team I'll talk about, and I'll spend the most time talking about this today, is how our sales team actually uses, Attio day to day. The first thing I want to talk about is lead routing and how we route leads from the three sources, and I'll actually add a fourth one here that I mentioned above, into Attio. So again, leads come from our signups to our workspaces, signups for workspaces, so trials. That data lands as a workspace object in Attio. We then have a workflow which generates new deal records anytime there is a new workspace sign up. We also have form fills on our website that is integrated with Attio directly via our API. Our engineers have built API integrations directly into Attio. Those kick off a workflow in Attio to then generate deal records. And last but not least, here we have examples of PQLs. For example, when a customer reaches certain usage benchmarks during their trial. If a user has spent more than an hour in Attio in the first day of their trial, that's something we want to flag to our sales team as a really high value opportunity. That also generates a deal record as an example. We have multiple sources all leading into these deal records. And what I want to then talk about next is how we take those deal records and triage them. But the highlight here, again, being lots of different places that data comes from that ultimately then flow into a consolidated framework for us to manage the opportunities that our sales team works. And I'll show you this live in a couple of minutes as well. So deal records are created from all of these different sources. We then have a second workflow in Attio that manages centralized routing and consolidation, segmentation and routing to determine how we want to manage every lead or deal that comes into our system. So we've centralized now into one place, despite the fact that these leads come from different sources. All of our deal records are then managed and routed and triage through one central workflow. The first thing that workflow does is deduplication. It's very possible that a customer can sign up for a workspace and also fill out a lead form. And in that deduplication step, we have a workflow that looks for existing open deals associated with the company that new deal record came from, closes that out as a dupe, but still lets the AE working the existing deal know that effectively there's been a new activity, new intent activity. Some might think of that as a lead on that account for informational purposes. And that workflow does things like create a task for to let an AE know that a customer has filled out a lead form, even though they already have a trial going on, or a Slack alert, letting them know that a customer has hit a usage threshold that we view as a really critical step in their sales process. Now, for net new deals, right, that make it through this deduplication step, in the workflows in Attio, we do segmentation based off of geography, based off of firmographics, and I'll talk about that more in a minute when I show you the workflow live, and then route them to AEs for them to work. So with that, I'll stop my screen sharing for a minute here, and of this slide rather, and reshare some live Attio. A live Attio demo. So this is the workflow that I just mentioned. I'm going to cover this at a relatively high level here, but wanted to just show you, real live what some of the things we're doing inside of Attio look like today. This is the workflow that, again, segments and triages all of our leads that come from those different sources. The way we manage that is when a deal is created, it is created and then moved to a deal triage stage. And as soon as deals are moved to that deal triage stage, this next step in our workflow kicks off. The brains of the operation are this switch block, which we use to segment our customers, or our leads rather, based off of firmographic information that we use Attio's enrichment for. Things like number of employees. There was a comment that this was a little blurry. I just have the high level screen here of the workflow pulled up, so I'm just kind of showing you the overall picture of what's going on. So this switch block again is the brains of the operation that lets us choose which sets of customers or prospects we want to engage for a deeper sales motion and bring into our sales-led process. And again, just kind of share again some of the highlights of this workflow. One of the things that this switch block lets us do is very quickly add additional segments of customers that we want to talk to. We don't reach out to every single customer that signs up for a workspace with Attio. We prioritize by industry. We prioritize by number of employees. We prioritize by region. And this lets us very quickly add new buckets of customers that we want to send into our sales pipeline for our AEs. So each of these branches tags a deal as a particular segment that we want to engage with. As an example here is tech early, so early stage tech companies. We tag the deal. To let the AE know exactly why this was brought into their pipeline. And at the bottom of this workflow, the last thing I want to show here is once we've segmented our customers into the particular industry tags, we then route them geographically. So for each one of these segments, we then have different pools of AEs based off of geography to determine which AE is going to reach out to that prospect. We use round robin blocks to put our AEs into each of these flows. And having each of these modular flows, right, or queues, if you will, for different types of leads based off of industry, based off of company size, based off of region, this gives us a ton of opportunity to really easily iterate on how we route our leads to different members of our team as the team grows, as we add new AEs, as we resegment, or simply as we need to redistribute based on load. If someone is going on vacation, it's very easy to remove someone from one of these flows, add them back in, when they come back. I like to think of this. I like to think of this, right, as being able to very easily just turn on and off pipes as we're managing at a growing business, how we flow our leads to our team. Someone asked for just a zoom out, so I'll do a bit of a zoom out here just to kind of give you an overview. But again, a switch to segment to segment, and then round robin blocks for each of these segments to route those deals to a particular set of team members. I'm going to switch now to a demo environment because I do want to show you some kind of live lists and workflows here internally. So we're now looking at fake data again. I apologize. What happens when these deals actually land on AE's plates? So we really heavily use views for each AE to see their pipeline, and we build those views around really tactical day-to-day tasks. And that's one of the major pieces of advice I give any customer using Attio is think about what job does a person have to do when they wake up in the morning, and how do we build them screens and workflows to facilitate doing that exact task. So this is the view for Marissa to review the lead stage. So new lead stage inbound deals. She only has one here. We've chosen to display attributes in this view that will help Marissa quickly make a decision about what to do with this lead. And of course, because this is Attio, I can drill into the company associated with this lead. I can see the whole email history with this lead. I can see the history of calls with this lead. I can see that we've had deals historically with this lead, and get all of that historical context as I decide how to disposition this individual account. And the next step of the process, once we've decided what to do, we've given the AE all of the context to make a good decision with lots of data, is give them tools in the form of workflows to take action quickly. So I'm going to run as an example here a workflow. Again, this is on a demo environment to mark this lead and take action on this lead as a high priority lead. And I might have 3 or 4 different options for things I can do. And this workflow, which I won't get too in depth with today, does 3 things. It will automatically mark the deal as high priority. It will change the lead to contacted. It is also adding the users associated with this, or the people associated with this deal, to an Attio email sequence, providing them with Marissa's booking link to actually book a sales call. And it's creating a task on this deal for Marissa to make sure, or me rather, to make sure that discovery call actually gets booked. So workflows don't have to be pure automations in Attio, right? They can also be these time-saving, human-kicked-off tools to get multiple steps done to maintain CRM hygiene, and just to make people's lives easier and faster and more consistent in the way we run our sales process. So we've got tons of these workflows set up. We actually have many of our AEs create their own customized workflows for the ways they want to run their particular triaging and their triaging workflows. And the last view I'll show here before I jump back to the slides is another way that we think of providing a tooling for a specific regular recurring task that we want to make sure our teams can do effectively. So this is not new leads, but existing leads that we've reached out to who have not responded back to us, and where we've brought in account usage data. We know that not everyone I reach out to is actually going to get back to me, but I want to prioritize additional outreach based off of other product usage signals or other intent signals during that, in this case, Attio trial. So as an example here, we have the number of users that have logged into the system in the last 30 days. And by sorting all of my contacted, but not leads that haven't reached back out to me by how much time they've spent in the product, or we can think of using things like life cycle stages from product usage data. For us, again, things like syncing your email or sending your first sequence or inviting other users or creating deal objects. And by sorting this list, right, by those key product signals, I can decide who I want to go reprioritize among my leads now that I'm perhaps a week into their trial and there's more data to help me decide what I want to do as a next step. So I'm going to switch back to my deck here. That covers what we wanted to share today about about our sales team. And I want to spend the last 5 minutes or so here talking about how other teams use Attio. The first team I'll talk about is customer success. Is onboarding rather. Here at Attio, because we are a PLG business, not everybody talks to our sales team, but we have an onboarding team that is responsible for making sure at that first stage of a customer's life cycle, when they have converted, when they've started paying, we make sure that those customers get the help they need to deploy Attio effectively. So we have workflows that operate independently of our sales cycle to monitor every single paid conversion, whether someone talked to a sales rep or didn't talk to a sales rep. And we do that with our product workspace data we've brought into Attio and an Attio workflow. We simply monitor in our case, ARR fields that are automatically synced into Attio using Segment from our app. And anytime a customer moves from not paying us to paying us, they get reviewed with a very similar segmentation logic that we have in our sales cycle to decide what level of onboarding support we want to provide to that customer. Again, we have similar routing and segmentation logic that we use in pre-sales in our post-sales process. And there's one additional element to our post-sales routing that was really interesting that I wanted to talk about. Some of our onboardings get sent directly to our solutions team. They send an email, they offer a meeting. We try to get in touch one by one, but we aren't able to offer that high touch service to every single customer. And we've created a whole slew of self-service resources for onboarding, including a weekly onboarding workshop that customers can attend that's done in a group setting. So any newly paid customer that is not routed to a team member to manage the onboarding is automatically sent as part of an Attio workflow to our email marketing system, our customer marketing system, Customer.io. We do that again in an Attio workflow using a outbound HTTP request that pings Customer.io's API directly and adds all of the users associated with that workspace to our scaled outreach content, inviting them to a weekly workshop. The second thing I'll mention on our onboarding team that I think is just kind of a great example of using the full breadth of Attio is our use of call insight templates. Anytime our onboarding team is directly reaching out or getting on call with the customer, it's obviously really important that we get the full context of the relationship to date. And I'm on the, I run a solutions team. I know that AE's taking notes is not always the most reliable thing to rely on. And this is where call insight templates are super, super helpful. So we have call insight templates. And if you're not using those today, those are in our call recording tool. You can define templates with series of prompts that will summarize your call recordings in a format that you have provided. So we have an onboarding prep specific call insight template that asks all of the questions from a sales call that our post-sales team would want to ask an AE to prep for that customer's onboarding. And I dropped the actual prompts we use here. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm sure some of you have been reading them already, but it'll be available in their call recording. Really just to share how granular we get when we're building these prompts. The Insight Template tool can be really effective when you talk to it like a human being and you ask questions to request the deep context and, again, insights, not just regurgitation of the facts from the calls that it is recorded. So for us, we really need to know things like, what is their data model? What tool are they migrating from and where are they in that process? What integrations do they need? And we end up with really, really concise, really useful prep summaries from those sales calls anytime we're prepping for an onboarding call. Last two slides here, we'll talk about how success and then general team members at Attio use our CRM day to day. Among our customer success team, our key account teams, or our named CSM team, manages their book of business out of an Attio list. In that list, we track, of course, ownership, who is the CSM for that account, both quantitative and qualitative metrics, health attributes about the account. So quantitative ones that are usage-based, again, coming from Segment, as well as qualitative attributes that our CSM team manages manually. And we use notes and note templates specifically to build account plans. So we have note templates for our account plan templates. We keep those notes then on our workspace records so that anyone at the company has direct access to what we're doing with that account. For kind of day-to-day account management work, we have product usage attributes that help us create things like alerts for churn risk or upsell risk. We use lists to manage renewal processes for our account management team. So we have a list with all of our annual renewals that we use to manage that pipeline of renewals that we're manually working through. And of course, an account's entire subscription history is available directly within Attio in our workspace object by simply looking at attribute history. So for anybody that doesn't know, you can right click or control click any attribute anywhere in Attio and see the full change log of that value. So if I want to know what the growth of an account has been over time, I can click right into Attio, see, for example, the number of seats or the ARR attribute, right click it and see that full change log without having to go into a backend system, without having to go into a BI tool, because it's all synced directly into Attio and we track that history. And then last but not least, support. As I mentioned, our tickets are tracked as a custom object in Attio. And of course, our support team has access to Attio, so they have one place to go when they want to understand for a customer they're talking to, what customer segment are they, what is their license information, and what is our historical relationship with that customer. So one place to go for all that information. Wrapping it up here, I wanted to just give a final nod to lists for being a really key way we manage all sorts of customer-facing projects in Attio across multiple teams. We do actually use Attio for certain components of our hiring process. We had a hire-a-thon a couple months ago where everybody submitted candidates for our recruiting team to reach out to. We did that right in Attio because obviously keeping a database of people is something that's really easy to do inside of Attio. And our marketing and product teams also use Attio really heavily for any customer-facing work they're doing. When we ran early on major product hunt launches, we kept a list of everyone we wanted to reach out to encourage them to participate in product hunt in Attio. We had a dinner in New York where I'm based a couple months ago, and we created a list to manage the invitations and the RSVPs to that list in RSVPs that invite in that event in Attio. And well, we could have done that in a spreadsheet, right? The real benefit of putting it here is it makes it really, really easy to mine information about your customers when you're doing non-sales work. I quickly pulled up a list of every user associated with the company that is based in New York City. I very easily was able to find who has the closest relationship with that person to invite them to that event. And everything was linked right to those people in our CRM. Of course, when I create ownership to hand those invites out, it's directly within Attio, so everybody can access it. And the same thing is true of the way we run our customer alphas here. So our product team invites customers to alphas of new features that we're building. And often I've seen in other companies I've worked at, getting customers for alphas is usually a Slack message the product sends out saying, hey, does anybody know anybody that wants to test this? But we are able to manage a proactive list. Anytime our sales or success team is working with a customer that could be a good fit, it's interested in a new product, anyone can add a customer to this alpha candidates list. They can note which particular products that they're interested in. And then when we're ready to set up those alphas, set up those betas, our product team has a readily available list of customers that are excited, interested in working and collaborating with us, as well as information on who the best contact is for working with that account. I really wanted to make sure I shared these with everybody today because it really is a good demonstration of the flexibility of Attio in both lists and custom objects to track anything that you need to track in your business that is associated with customers. It's not just a CRM. It can be used for these more project managey-like tasks to keep that whole history of your engagement with your customers in one place and to expose that engagement with customers to teams that historically might not engage with your CRM. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I know we went a little bit over time here, but I hope this was a useful session. I know there have been a bunch of questions in the chat. I'll take about 5 minutes here to pick up a couple. I know Matt, my colleague Matt, has responded to a few, but I'll scroll through this and take maybe 5 minutes to go through these. But thank you all for joining. The recording will be available right after this inside of the community. And if you do have more questions, always feel free to reach out to our chat support team, ask questions in community, and again, thank you all for being Attio customers. I'm gonna just make sure I answer questions here that weren't answered previously in the conversation. Yeah, so Intercom, we have set up a manual sync. We have set up a custom sync from Intercom into Attio. We actually send that data first to our warehouse using an ETL tool, and then reverse ETL that back into Attio using that same tool. So Polytomic is a tool we use for that. There are other ETL and reverse ETL tools out there, but we were already syncing our Intercom data into our data warehouse for ticket analytics. So it was a very easy step to then just push those records directly back into our CRM too. Great. Yeah, I think most of these have been answered or kind of recovered elsewhere. So we're gonna call it here. And again, thanks again for all joining. Take care.